While Ukrainian children hid in bomb shelters, these two men shook hands on a red carpet. What happened next in that room will change the world forever. And Ukraine? They weren't even invited. August 15th, 2025. For the first time in a decade, Vladimir Putin stepped onto American soil, not in Washington, not in New York, in Alaska, the land Russia once owned. Donald Trump, just weeks into his second presidency, promised he could end the war in 24 hours. This was his moment to prove it. But as these two men prepared to reshape the world, one crucial voice was missing: Ukraine's President Zelensky. The man whose country was being carved up wasn't even at the table. Picture this: Vladimir Putin, a man with an international arrest warrant, stepping off his plane to a red carpet rolled out by American soldiers. Trump didn't just meet him, he honored him. B-2 stealth bombers flew overhead as they shook hands. The same bombers that just months ago destroyed Iran's nuclear facilities. Was this a show of strength, or was Trump already signaling submission? Putin rode in Trump's presidential limousine. The beast. When has America ever given such treatment to an accused war criminal? While Trump and Putin smiled for cameras, Ukrainian President Zelensky sat in Kiev, watching his country's future being decided without him. This violated the West's most sacred principle: nothing about Ukraine without Ukraine. Protesters in Anchorage held signs reading, "Where is Zelensky?" but their voices were drowned out by the diplomatic theater unfolding on the tarmac. For 3 years, Ukraine has bled for its freedom. Now its ally was shaking hands with its oppressor, and Ukraine wasn't even invited to watch. What happened in those 3 hours behind closed doors? The world held its breath as Trump and Putin disappeared from view, accompanied only by their closest advisors. No press, no recordings, no transparency, just two men who have praised each other for years, finally alone to reshape the global order. The Kremlin had predicted talks could last 7 hours. They ended after 3. Was that success, or had something gone terribly wrong? Then came the moment no one expected. As their joint press conference ended, Putin turned to Trump and spoke in perfect English, "Next time in Moscow."
And probably see you again very soon. Thank you very much, Vladimir.
Next time in Moscow.
Oh,
Trump's reaction? Visible surprise, then a smile. "I could see it possibly happening," he replied. In that moment, the Cold War officially ended. But on whose terms? Putin had just invited the American president to the Kremlin, and Trump didn't say no. But this wasn't just about war. Putin brought Russia's top business leaders, oil executives, tech oligarchs, investment fund managers. They weren't there to discuss peace. They were there to discuss profit. Trump noticed. "I like that they want to do business," he said. While Ukrainians died, these men planned how to divide the spoils. Sanctions have crippled Russia's economy for 3 years. Was this summit really about ending the war or ending the economic isolation that's brought Putin to his knees? Putin claimed they reached an understanding. Trump said, "There's no deal until there's a deal." These weren't allies celebrating success. These were negotiators protecting their positions. The Russian president warned Europe not to torpedo the nascent progress. Translation: don't interfere with what we've agreed to do to Ukraine. But what understanding? What progress? After 3 hours of the most important diplomatic meeting in decades, the world was left with nothing but vague promises and ominous warnings. Trump promised to call Zelensky soon to brief him on the meeting. Think about that. The leader of the country being invaded would learn about his own fate through a phone call after the fact. "It's now up to Zelensky to get it done," Trump declared. Up to Zelensky to accept whatever deal these two men had crafted in his absence. The Ukrainian president had spent 3 years begging for weapons, for support, for recognition. Now he was being told to make a deal with the man trying to erase his country from the map. Why Alaska? Putin called it symbolic. The land where America and Russia are separated by just 55 miles. But there's a darker symbolism here. Alaska was Russian territory until 1867, when it was sold to America for $7.2 million. Putin has never forgotten that Russia once owned American soil. By meeting in Alaska, Putin was sending a message. What was once Russian can be Russian again. Was this summit about Ukraine, or was it about something much larger? Even as Trump and Putin shook hands, Russian missiles were striking Ukrainian homes. 7 civilians died that morning. Children hid in basements while their leaders' fates were decided thousands of miles away. Trump admitted he'd already asked Putin to stop bombing civilians. Putin's answer? The bombing continued through the summit. This wasn't diplomacy. This was Putin showing Trump exactly how much Ukrainian life was worth to him. Nothing. Across Europe, leaders watched in horror. Macron huddled with Zelensky before the summit. NATO's supreme commander flew to Alaska to provide military advice to Trump. They knew what Trump didn't seem to understand. Putin doesn't negotiate. He conquers. And now he had the American president's ear with no witnesses. Hillary Clinton offered to nominate Trump for a Nobel Peace Prize if he could end the war without Ukrainian territorial concessions. The subtext was clear. Everyone knew he was about to sell Ukraine out. Trump had already revealed his hand. He spoke of land swapping between Russia and Ukraine, but Ukraine holds no Russian territory. The only land to swap was Ukrainian land to Russia. Ukrainian experts warned that any territorial concessions would bring people to the streets. 3 revolutions in 30 years had shown that Ukrainians don't accept betrayal quietly. Trump was negotiating with the wrong person. It wasn't Zelensky he needed to convince. It was 40 million Ukrainians who had already paid the price for their freedom. But here's what they didn't tell you. What they couldn't tell you. Because if they did, the world would understand the true price of this understanding. Putin played Trump perfectly. Every handshake, every smile, every moment of that red carpet welcome was calculated. Putin came to Alaska not to make peace, but to break America's resolve. And judging by Trump's reaction to that English invitation to Moscow, it worked. 3 hours in Alaska may have changed everything. Not because peace was made, but because America showed the world that even war criminals get red carpet treatment if they have something Trump wants. Ukraine fights on, but now they know they're fighting alone. Europe scrambles to fill the leadership void America just created. And Putin, he's already planning his victory parade in Moscow. The Alaska summit wasn't the beginning of peace. It was the end of the world order as we knew it. What happens next will determine whether democracy survives or authoritarianism wins. And it all started with a handshake on a cold tarmac in Alaska. The question isn't whether Trump and Putin made a deal. The question is, what did America just trade away? Call to action. If this shocked you, you need to share this video. Subscribe for more explosive revelations about what's really happening behind closed doors. And let me know in the comments. Did Trump just hand Putin the victory he's been fighting for? The world needs to know.